this video, we're going to be looking at suspense adjustments, which are an adjustment that comes up practically every single year. Now, it's very similar to the suspense question that comes up in 60 or 100 marker. And what you can do is you can use T accounts in order to fix this, but I'm going to teach you a very quick way of doing it here. Okay, using the trial balance to do it really quickly in the exam. So that's the way that we'll take a look at it now. Now, just before we get in, we're going to look just at a little bit of theory about suspense accounts, okay? So what is a trial balance? You don't need to know this for question 1, but it's just backup. So what is a trial balance? So it gives a list of all the account balances at the end of the accounting period. So you can see all the different balances of all the different accounts. So it's prepared in order to test the accuracy of double entry bookkeeping before preparing final accounts. And a trial balance should have the same total of debits and credits and have the same amounts, because under double entry bookkeeping, every debit should have a corresponding credit entry. So here's the debit side here, the left hand side, and here's the credit side. So the debit side shows the assets, things owned, and expenses, the costs of running the business. And then the credit side shows the liabilities, things owed, and the revenues, the earnings of the business. So you can see here, our debit side actually doesn't equal the credit side. So that means that the bookkeeper has made a mistake somewhere in the accounts. So what they can do is they can just figure out which side is smaller. So this side here, the debit side is smaller. So they just put in 2,700 into a suspense account, and now the sides equal. So the suspense account was created to enable the trial balance to balance. We'll put the difference, debit of 27, into the suspense account until the errors are discovered, and this allows the trial balance to balance. Now, that'll be just temporarily while the bookkeeper corrects the relevant errors through the suspense account and then eliminates the 2700 difference. So there are mistakes somewhere here, and the mistakes add up to 2700 debit side, and we'll fix them, and then we'll no longer need the suspense account. Now, in Leaving Cert questions, they like to include it in with other accounts, and in this question you can see that it went into the advertising account, which has a debit balance. All right. Now, in the suspense questions in section 1 or 2, all right, you could be asked a lot of different types of theory. We've had a look at some of it there, but are there limitations of trial balances? This is a popular question. So although trial balances are great, that they check the total debit balances against the sum of the credit balances, if the debit and credit sides do not balance, there could be 3 possible explanations. So the bookkeeper could have made a mathematical error, so in figures and addition. They could have posted a figure to only one side of a double entry, for example, debited the debtor account but didn't credit the sales account. Or the bookkeeper entered one amount on the debit side of one ledger account and entered a different amount on the credit side of another ledger account. So there are the 3 mistakes that a bookkeeper would make that would be spotted in the trial balance, such as the trial balance that we saw that had 2,700 less on the debit side. So they're the mistakes that are very obvious to us with the trial balances. So trial balances aren't perfect. So the debit and credit sides can balance, but there could be 6 different types of error that it doesn't reveal. And you can remember this anagram here, COPCOR, and be able to remember them. So C, error of commission. O, error of original entry. P, error of principal. C, compensating errors. O, error of omission. And or reversal of entries. Okay, so they're the 6 types of error that a trial balance will not reveal. Now, so the C, error of commission. So what is an error of commission? An error of commission occurs when the correct amount is posted to the correct side of the incorrect account. For example, goods sold on credit to Brian Brady were debited in error to John Brady's account. O, error of original entry. So these are errors made in the books of first entry, which are then subsequently posted to the appropriate ledger accounts. So credit purchases from T Long 223 entered as 322 in the purchases book and posted accordingly to both the purchases account and to Long's account. P. Error of principle. So an error of principle arises when an item is posted to the incorrect class of account. For example, a boutique owner purchased a vehicle and treated it as a purchase of stock. C. Compensating errors. So this is where an error on the debit side of one account is compensated by another error of an equal amount on the credit side of another account. So for example, a cash payment of $5.50 for repairs entered as $55 on the debit of the repairs account and on the credit side of the cash account. O. Error of omission. So transactions are completely left out of the ledger accounts and the final balance. So both debit and credit are omitted. So sales returns from debtors not entered into the books. And then finally we have R, reversal of entries. So this happens when the correct figures are used but entries are made on the incorrect sides of the accounts involved, i.e. where the debit entry is on the credit side and the credit entry is on the debit side. So for example, a sale of goods 300 to T. O'Brien was entered on the credit side of T. O'Brien's account and on the debit side of the sales account. The correction figure here is double the original figure. So the incorrect figure had to be cancelled and the correct figure entered on the correct side. So let's take a look at some past exam suspense adjustments, suspense adjustments, which is ironic because we all make mistakes and I made that mistake there. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we can use T accounts, but instead of doing that, I'm going to teach you a quick way of doing it that you just use the trial balance in the question in front of you. And what this does is this helps us make sure that we plus and minus the right place and also that we reduce the time that it takes us to do this. So we shouldn't have to go to a workings page and spend a whole page of workings doing this. I've seen that in the summertime when I've been correcting Leaving Cert exams that people will take forever to do this. You don't need to. So we're going to get it done now really quickly. So 2021 question 1A. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for mortgage interest, although the correct entry had been made in the bank account, and a payment of 2900 to creditors entered only in the bank account. So obviously our debits and credits didn't equal, but they equal now because we put a suspense figure in with the advertising. So now they equal. So the bookkeeper has to come, realise their mistakes, which is here, and we need to fix it and find out what the advertising figure really is. So the first part, incorrect figure for mortgage interest, but the correct entry had been made in the bank account. So we just need to fix the mortgage interest figure. So it's saying here, this figure here is wrong. Okay, so that figure is wrong. Why is it wrong? Well, 5% fixed mortgage, including 50% issued on the 31st of the 3rd. So this mortgage here for the first 3 months of the year would have been 230,000. So 230,000 by 5% by 3 over 12 is 2875. So how do I make this 2875? Well, I would add 500 to that to make it 2875. Okay. Now, if I added 500 to a debit side, my sides won't equal because I'll be 2500 up on the debit side. Now, I go to my item incorporating suspense, and to fix this and get these to equal again, I will minus 500 from my debit figure. So look at what we've done. We've added 500 to the debit side and we've minus 500 to the debit side. So now both those sides equal. Next then, we'll take the second one. So a payment of 2,900 to creditors entered only in the bank account. So a payment of 2,900 to creditors entered only in the bank account. Okay, so enter in the bank account, what account wasn't it put into? So I didn't adjust my creditors account. So this creditor here is a liability. If I pay them 2,900, my debt to them is going to reduce. So I'll minus 2,900 to the creditor's account. Now, if I only minus 2,900 to one side, my sides will not equal. So what I'm going to have to do then is I'm going to have to also minus it from the debit side. And basically that's your suspense adjustment done then. Okay, so on your debit side here, 3600 minus 5 minus 29. Your mortgage interest, you're going to say that it was 2875 paid instead of 2375, and then your creditors, you're going to reduce it by 29. So this is how it's going to look in the accounts. So your advertising goes in selling and distribution. You already have the 36 written in from step 2 when you put all your figures in from the trial balance, but you'll minus the 500 and you'll minus the 2,900. Okay, then the mortgage interest paid is 2875. So we'll take that away from the amount of mortgage interest for the year, and that will help us figure out how much mortgage interest we have due. All right, so that'll be helpful there. Then we have our creditors minus 2,900. So 2021 question 1b. So the suspense figure here was put into general factory overheads in this question. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount allowed 1,400 entered only in the debtor's account and credit purchases of raw materials 11,000 which were entered only in the purchase account. So we'll take the first part first. So discount allowed 1,400 entered only in the debtor's account. So discount allowed will also need to go into the discount account. Now here's my discount up here. This discount figure is on the credit side and that is discount received. Okay, so that is discount received. Sorry. Okay, so if I allowed a discount, that would reduce my overall discount figure. So discount allowed would go on this side because that's an expense. So it would basically just reduce this 3,700 here. Now my sides do not equal because I've minus 1,400 from the credit side. So what will I do to get it to equal? Well, I'll take a look at my item incorporating suspense, which is on the debit side. If I minus from the credit side, to get this to equal again, I need to minus on the debit side. So that's the first part done. Now, credit purchases of raw materials 11,000 entered only in the purchases account. So credit purchases. Who do I purchase on credit from? I purchase on credit from a creditor. So if I go to my creditor account down here, 786, if I purchased 11,000 from them, my liability to this creditor will increase. So therefore, I will add 11 to this figure here on the credit side. Now my debits and credits do not equal. So what do I have to do here to my general factory overheads to make them equal? If I add on the credit side, I will also have to add to the figure on the debit side. So that's 2021 question 1b done. If I put it in here, my discount received is going to reduce by 1,400. My general factory overheads are going to go in over here. 101,400 minus 14 plus 11. And then the debtors and creditors, we're going to add the 11 here. Now you'll see here, you know, I've put my figures out on here. Keep your figures away from the three columns like you've seen here, but it's just I wanted to make it bigger, but you'd squeeze them figures in there. So that's 2021 done. So 2020, the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for mortgage interest, although the correct entry had been entered in the bank account, and a VAT payment of 3,700 entered only in the bank account. Okay, so the two sides didn't equal, so the difference was shoved into the salaries and general expenses here. So that's where my suspense figure is. Now, so the first one, incorrect figure for mortgage interest. So mortgage interest, we've got 300,000 here, and that is after we added 60,000 on the 1st of the 4th. So 8% fixed mortgage before the 1st of the 4th was 300 minus 60, so that is 240,000 by 8% by 3 over 12. So mortgage interest paid for 3 months If we multiply that out, it should have been 4800 and not 8400. So the bookkeeper obviously just switched around the figures by mistake. So how do I get this to be 4,800, which is the correct mortgage interest paid? Well, I'd have to minus 36. If I minus 36 from my debit side, my debits and credits will not equal. So I go to my item incorporating suspense, which is also on the debit side. So to get my two sides to equal again, I will add 3,600 there. And now my two sides equal. Now, a VAT payment of 3,700 entered only in the bank account is the second thing that the bookkeeper didn't do or did by mistake. So we see here the VAT is 3,100. That is a liability. So they owe 3,100 VAT. But if they paid 3,700 towards that, we would minus 3,700. So the liability would reduce. Now that's going to mean you're going to have 600 overall balance on the debit side, but we'll see how that look in a second. Now if I minus 3,700 from the credit side, my two sides will not equal. So what will I do here to get that to equal? I will also minus 3,700 there. Now, let's see how this looks in the accounts. So our VAT here was 3,100, but when I minus 3,700 from that, that's going to turn into a current asset, all right? So 3,100 minus 3,700, that's 600 on the debit side, which is then an asset. Then we have my salaries and general expenses. So 381,750 plus 3,600 minus 3,700, and remember, just keep them all to the, don't put them in these columns here. Then mortgage interest, it should have been 4,800. So whatever for the year minus 4,800, and we'll put the answer in here whenever we finish the question. All right, 2019 was adjustment 6. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for debenture interest, although the correct figure had been entered in the bank account, and discount received 460 entered only in the creditor's account. So we look at the debenture interest first. So we had 7% debentures, including 60,000 issued on the 1st of the 4th, and they're now 300,000. So before the 1st of the 4th, they were 300 minus 60, which is 2,400. Right, so debenture interest paid for the first 3 months, this is wrong. So what should it have been? So 2,400 by 7% by 3 over 12 is 42. So we were a good bit off there. So we have to minus 2,200 in order to get this to be the correct figure, which is 4,200. So my two sides don't equal when I minus 2,200 from one side. What I must do, go to my item incorporating suspense then, and to get the two sides to equal, I will add 2,200. So that's the first part done there. The second part is discount received 460 entered only in the creditor's account. So discount received 460 entered only in the creditor's account. What other account does it need to go into? It also needs to go into the discount account, and discount received would be a credit entry. So I look for my discount, that's already a revenue, that's already discount received, and so more discount received 460 would only be added to that. I add 460 to my credit side, so my debit and credits don't equal, so therefore my item incorporating suspense, I'll also have to add 460 there. So what's this going to look like? So your discount received is going to be increased by 460 there. The debenture interest is actually going to be 4,200 and not 6,400. And the salaries and general expenses will go in admin there, 243 plus 22 plus 460. And remember, this is only big because I'm showing you guys, but just write it nice and small and keep these columns clear. So you're just doing your workings here at the side here. No need for workings pages. All right, 2018 manufacturing account. So it was adjustment 3 here this year. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount allowed 600 entered only in the debtor's account, and credit purchases of raw materials 6,000 entered on the incorrect side of the creditor account. Okay, so discount allowed 600 entered only in the debtor's account. So what other account does it need to go into? It needs to go into the discount account, right? So we look for the discount account. Here's the discount account here. 8,000 is on the credit side, so that means that is discount received. Now, if discount allowed of 600 wasn't put in here, that's going to reduce the overall balance of your discount account. So discount allowed would go here. So that's like 8,000 minus 600 is 7,400. Okay, I can't minus 600 to one side, so without doing it the other, because my debits and credits won't equal. So to my suspense figure, I must minus 600 there. Now next we have credit purchases of raw materials 6,000 entered on the incorrect side of the creditor account. So what I need to do when I buy goods on credit from a creditor, I would need to put 6,000 on the credit side. But this is saying to me that I put 6,000 on the debit side. So to fix that, what I would need to do is I would need to add 12,000 then to my creditor figure. So one of those 6,000 is cancelling out the 6,000 on the debit side, and one of the 6,000 is actually recording the credit purchase. So now what we have here, the two sides do not equal. So what I have to do then is, if I've added 12,000 to the credit side, I'll also need to add it to the debit side, because that's where my figure incorporating suspense is. So how is this going to look? Well, we've got creditors plus 12,000. We've got general factory overheads, 91,400 minus 600 plus 12,000. On our discount received, we have 8,000 minus 600. Now, then we have 2017. So this one here was answered quite poorly. We'll see now in a second why. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for mortgage interest, although the correct figure had been entered in the bank account, and a VAT refund of €2,000 entered only in the bank account. Okay, so incorrect figure for mortgage interest. So this mortgage interest here is incorrect. All right, how much should the mortgage interest for first 3 months have been? Well, we have a mortgage of 180 by 6% by 3/12, that's 27. So this here was incorrect. It was entered correctly in the bank account. How do I get that to be 27? I add 300. Now my two sides do not equal, as I've added 300 to the debit side, and so I'm out of sync here. So I look for my item incorporating suspense, which is also on the debit side. So what I'll do is I'll minus 300 in order to get the sides to equal again. Now this part is what got a lot of people back in that exam. So a VAT refund of 2,000 entered only in the bank account. So VAT refund of 2,000 entered only in the bank account. Basically, we have to think about what would have happened in the bank account. Well, 2,000 would have come into the bank account, so we'll have to credit the VAT account. But if we look here, this VAT only ever goes in the balance sheet, right? You only ever owe it to the revenue commissioners, which would be on the credit side, that's liability, but then they could owe you some money back, right? So this here would be a VAT refund due. It's an asset in the current assets, so VAT refund due, the revenue commissioners owe you 6,400, okay? So if we had a VAT refund paid to us, the debit side 2,000 goes into the bank, so we have to credit the VAT account. But this VAT refund due would reduce by 2,000 because you've received 2,000 of it. So now your two sides don't equal. So what are you going to do with your insurance incorporating suspense? You're going to add that 2,000 there. So how's this going to look in our accounts? Well, our mortgage interest, we're going to be taking 2,700 away from whatever it is for the year. The insurance, 17,700 minus 3 plus 2,000, and the VAT, 6,400 minus 2,000. And again here, make sure these three things are equal. I've just got this nice and big so that you guys can see it, but just keep that over to the side. Okay, 2016 manufacturing account, adjustment number 5. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount allowed 1,200 entered only in the debtor account, and credit purchases of raw materials 5,000 entered on the incorrect side of the creditor account. Okay, so we'll go with discount allowed 1,200 entered only in the debtor's account first. So if we had allowed discount, we would also have to debit the discount account because discount allowed is an expense, so we would debit that. Okay, so discount here, we have our discount here, 6,000 on the credit side, so discount allowed, we would minus 1,200 from that discount received because discount allowed is recorded here. Now my two sides do not equal, so I minus 1,200 here and I'll minus 1,200 here then to make our sides equal again. So we can't, we have to minus 1,200 from the credit, minus 1,200 from the debit. Right, the next one then. So we have credit purchase of raw materials 5,000 entered on the incorrect side of the credit account. So we've seen this before. So we have creditors here. We should have added 5,000 to that previously, but what the bookkeeper did was they debited 5,000 instead. So to fix this, we will add 10,000 to the credit side of the creditor's account. Now we can't credit 10,000 to the creditor account without doing something else, so we go to our suspense and we'll have to add 10,000 to the item on the debit side as well in order for those to equal. So we're all equaled and we're all good there. Okay, so how's this going to look? So creditors, we add the 10,000. So the first 5,000, that was the original entry that should have been made. The second 5,000 is correct and the error at the start. General factory overheads, 86,400 minus 1,200 plus 10,000 there. And then we've got discount received, 6,000 minus 1,200. 2015. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for debenture interest, although the correct entry had been made in the bank account and discount allowed 400 entered only in the discount account. Okay, so how is this going to look? So we've 8% debentures, 400,000. All right, so if we were to calculate the debenture interest for the first 6 months, it would be 400,000 by 8% by 6 over 12, which is 16. So this is obviously wrong. There's 200 too much, so we'll minus 200 there. So then our two sides will not equal. What we'll do then is we will add 200 there to make our sides equal again. So if we minus 200 from the debit, we'll also have to plus 200 to the debit to make those equal. Second one is discount allowed 400 entered only in the discount account. So discount allowed 400 was entered into the discount account. What is the other account that discount allowed would need to go into? Who do you allow a discount to? You allow a discount to your debtors. So we'll minus 400 from the debtors there. So 99.2 minus 400. Then our two sides do not equal, so we have to plus 400 there to our salaries and general expenses. So 231,100 plus 200 plus 400, that's our suspense then completely gone. So we'll slot these into our accounts. So our debenture interest due, we minus 16,000 instead of the 16,200. The debtors we reduce by 400, and then salaries and general expenses 231,100 plus 200 plus 400, and that's us there for the 2015 suspense adjustment. Right, so 2014 adjustment 3. The suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for mortgage interest, although the correct figure had been entered in the bank account, and €2,000 paid towards PAYE, PRSI and USC entered only in the bank account. Okay, so let's get started with the first one. So the mortgage interest for the first 3 months, this is incorrect. So looking up here, we have a 6% fixed mortgage, including an increase of 60,000 received on the 1st to the 4th. So 200,000 before we got that increase was 140. So 140 by 6% by 3 over 12, 2,1. So this is not 2,1 quite clearly. We would have to add 600 to that to make it 2,1. So when we do that, our sides do not equal. So our salaries and general expenses, we'll have to minus 600 there. Then we have 2,000 paid towards PAYE, PRSI and USC entered only in the bank account. So PAYE, PRSI, USC, a payment of 2,000. So this is an amount due. So this is a liability. So we owe this 3,800. But if we paid 2,000 towards that, the liability is going to reduce. So we will minus the 2,000 from that. So our liability after this will only be 1,800, which makes sense if we paid 2,000. Our two sides don't equal now, so we must go up to the salaries and general expenses and take 2,000 away from that. So we minus 2,000 from credit side, minus 2,000 from debit side. So how does it look then in the book? So our salaries and general expenses, 90,000 minus 600 minus 2,000. Our mortgage interest due will be 2,100 instead of 1,500. And the PAYE, PRSI, USC will be our 3,800 liability minus the 2,000 there. 2013, adjustment 5. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for debenture interest, although the correct entry had been made in the bank account, and returns 1,000 entered only in the debtor's account. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So what we do, our 9% debentures here, 200,000. And our debenture interest for the first 3 months, they're telling us that this is incorrect. So how much should it be? 200 by 9% by 3 over 12 is 4.5. So this here is 4.8, but it should be 4.5. So what we do, we minus 300 here. Then what you'll have to do then in the admin expenses, you will have to plus 300 there for that to equal. And then returns 1,000 entered only in the debtor's account. So here we have sales. If we have sales returns, we will minus 1,000 from our sales. I know it's sales because it was entered only in the debtor's account, so I know that it is sales returns because it's a debtor. So I minus 1,000 from sales. My two sides don't equal. So what do I do to get it to equal? If I minus from 1,000 from the credit side, I'll have to minus 1,000 from the debit side. So that is us there. So here we have then debenture interest for the first 3 months. We've got 4.8 minus 3, so that is 4.5 there. Then we have sales, 1,540 minus 1,000 here. And then we have admin expenses. So we have 27,600 plus 300 minus 100. And that's 2013 done. 2012, adjustment 3. The suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for debenture interest, although the correct entry had been made in the bank account, and discount allowed 450 entered only in the discount account. Okay, so debenture interest is incorrect. So this up here, debenture interest for the first 4 months, that is incorrect. It was entered, the figure, whatever the correct figure was entered in the bank account. But let's see what it should have been. So 9% debentures, 180,000, right? But we multiply it by 4 months, that's 5.4. So this here should be 5.4, not 5.6. So to get that to be 5.4, we have to minus 200. Then salaries, including suspense, we'll have to plus 200 in order for our two sides to now equal. And the second part, discount allowed 450 entered only in the discount account. So discount allowed entered in the discount account. What account did it not go into? So who do you allow a discount to? You allow a discount to a debtor. So the debtors here, we give them a discount, we'll minus 450 from that. Then our two sides do not equal. So minus 450 on the debit side, I'll have to plus 450 on the debit side for that to equal. So let's have a look and see how that goes into our accounts. So we have debenture interest due, we minus the 54,000 instead of the 56, which was incorrect. Then we have our debtors, 98,400 minus 450. And then we have salaries and general expenses, 194,300 plus 200 plus 450. Okay, the 2011 exam then. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount received 300 entered only in the creditors account, and of the posting of an incorrect figure for the debenture interest paid to the interest account. The correct interest was entered in the bank account. Okay, so the first part of that. The suspense figure arises as a result of discount received entered only in the creditors account. So what other account does discount received need to go into? It needs to go into the discount account. So up here we have discount on the credit side, 2,000, that is discount received. So if I received 300 more euro as a discount, I would add 300 there. Now my two sides do not equal. What I must do, I go down to my item incorporating suspense and I add 300 there. That is the first part done. Then it's saying to us the incorrect figure for debenture interest. So here's my debentures, 9% debentures, including 30,000 issued on the 1st of the 4th, 2010, 80,000. My debenture interest paid for the first 3 months, they're saying that this is incorrect. Okay, so what is it? Now, if I had 30,000 issued on the 1st of the 4th, my debentures before that date would have been 50,000. So 50,000 by 9% by 3 over 12 is 1125. So I have to add 125 here. My two sides would then not equal if I added 125 to the debit side, but I need to get it to equal again. My item incorporating suspense is also on the debit side. So to fix that then and make sure that my two sides equal, I will minus 125 there. And now my two sides equal. Then I'll just slot all the info into my accounts. So I have discount received here, 2,000 plus 300. In my selling expenses in my TPL, I have 108 plus 300 minus 125. And then in my debenture interest due over here, I have the amount for the year minus my correct amount of debenture interest I have paid, which is 1125. Next, we look at the 2010 question. So it was adjustment 4 here. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for mortgage interest, although the correct figure had been entered in the bank account, and a 1,000 euro paid towards PAYE and PRSI entered only in the bank account. Okay, so the first one there, the mortgage interest paid is incorrect. So this 1400 is incorrect. So we look at the mortgage amount. So 6% fixed mortgage, including an increase of 80,000 received on the 1st of the 4th, 2009. So this 1800 is incorrect. So that means we've got 100,000, right, before we got the increase. So 100,000 by 6% by 3 over 12 should be 1500. So how do I make this be 1,500? So I add 100 there. Now my two sides do not equal. What I need to do up here then in my salaries and general expenses, I need to minus the 100. And then we have a payment of 1,000 paid towards PAYE and PRSI, entered only in the bank account. So there was no entry in the PAYE and PRSI account here. Now looking at this PAYE PRSI account, that is a liability, right? That only ever goes in the balance sheet, like as does VAT, right? So if I paid 1,000 towards this liability that I owe the government is going to reduce. So I will minus 1,000 from this 54. Now, as you know, your two sides won't equal if you have minus 1,000 from the credit side. Okay, so what you have to do to the debit side, the item incorporating suspense, you also have to minus that there. Okay, so how's this going to look in the accounts? You've got your salaries and general expenses, 75,000 minus 100 minus 1,000. Your mortgage interest due is going to be, you're going to have the amount for the year minus 1,500 instead of 1,400. And then the PAYE and PRSI, you've got 5400 minus 1,000 there in the creditors minus 1 year. Now, 2009 exam, so adjustment number 4. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount allowed 200 entered only in the discount account, and of the posting of incorrect figure for the debenture interest paid to the interest account. The correct interest was entered in the bank account. Okay, so first of all, we look at the discount allowed, entered only in the discount account. Okay, so discount allowed, entered only in here. Where else would discount allowed go? Who do you give a discount to? hopefully you'll know you give a discount to your debtors. So if you give a discount to them, your debtors is going to reduce by 200. This means that your two sides won't equal, and what you'll have to do to your item incorporating suspense, you'll have to add 200 there. And of the posting, the second part of this then, the posting of an incorrect figure for debenture interest paid into the interest account and the correct amount was entered into the bank account. Okay, happy days. Right, so look, we have our debentures here, 9% debentures, including 60,000 issued on the 1st of the 4th, 2008. So before the 1st of the 4th, for the first 3 months, they had 90,000 minus 60, so that's 30,000. So 30,000 by 9% by 3 months is 675. Now, they said that the debenture interest for the first 3 months was 175. So to fix that, we would have to add 500 to that to make it 675. So plus 500 here, then in our admin incorporating suspense, we would have to minus 500 there. So then how will that look in our accounts? So our debtors 64.5 minus 200. Our debenture interest due would be whatever it is for the year minus 675. And then our admin expenses 22.4 plus 200 minus 500 there. So that's 2009. Next we'll look at the 2008 question. So adjustment number 3. The suspense figure arises as a result of the posting of an incorrect figure for mortgage interest in the mortgage interest account and discount received 200 entered only in the creditor's account. The correct interest was entered in the bank account. Okay, so let's get going. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the posting of an incorrect figure for mortgage interest in mortgage interest account. Okay, so our mortgage now is 150, but they got an increase on the 1st of the 4th. So for the first 3 months, the mortgage was 100,000. So the mortgage interest paid should be 100,000 by 6% by 3 over 12. So that's 1,500. So 1250 plus 250, and the one incorporating suspense then minus 250 to fix that. So that means that my debit side and credit side will equal then. Okay, so if I plus 250 to something on the debit side, I'll have to minus 250 to the thing on the debit side. Okay, and discount received 200 entered only in the creditor's account. So discount received 200 entered only in the creditor's account. What other account does that need to go into? It will also need to go into the discount account. So here we have discount 1900. If I receive 200, 200 would have to go on the credit side because revenues received, discount received would go on the credit side. So my discount allowed here, which is an expense, will reduce by 200. Now my debit sides, credit sides don't equal. So I will have to add 200 to my insurance, which is my item incorporating suspense, to get those to equal again. So how's it going to look in the accounts? You've got discount allowed 1900 but minus the discount received. You've got mortgage interest due 1,500 minus the amount for the year instead of the 1250, and then the insurance in the admin expenses 6150 minus 250 plus 200, and that's the 2008 one done. 2007. The suspense figure arises as a result of the incorrect figure for debenture interest, although the correct entry had been made in the bank account. Okay, and then discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. Okay, so the incorrect figure for debenture interest. So we've got 8% debentures here, 180,000. Now, the debenture interest for the first 4 months is up here, so this is obviously wrong. So how much should it have been? Well, it should have been 180,000 by 8% by 4 over 12, and that is 4,800. So I will minus 200 from that. Now my two sides do not equal. So how do I get them to equal? I will plus 200 here. And then we have discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. So discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. So what other account does that need to go into? It needs to go into the discount account. So up here we have discount and it's on the credit side. So that is discount received. If I receive €700 more discount, I will add 700 there. Now my two sides do not equal. I need to get them to equal again. So if I add something to the credit side, I'll also have to add it to the figure that's on the debit side. How is this going to look in my accounts then? So I have my discount received, 10,800 plus 700. My debenture interest paid is going to be 4,800 instead of 5,000. So I'll have my debenture interest due will be the amount for the year minus 4,800. And then my advertising in my selling and distribution expenses will be 14,800 plus 200 plus 700. In the 2006 paper, it was adjustment 3. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the posting of an incorrect figure from mortgage interest to the mortgage interest account and discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. The correct interest was entered in the bank account. Okay, so here's my mortgage info. I've got 300,000 by 5%. And we received 100,000 top up on the 1st of the 4th. So before the 1st of the 4th, we had 200,000. Okay, so 200,000 by 5% by 3/12 is what my mortgage interest should have been. Okay, so then we have 200,000 by 5% by 3/12, 2,500. So this is incorrect here. 3,000 should have been 2,500. So how do I get that to be 2,500? I minus 500 here. My two sides do not equal then. What will I do to get them to equal? I will add 500 there. That's the first part corrected. Second part, discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. So I receive a discount, only went in the creditor's account. It should also go in the discount account. So discount here, 36 is on the credit side. That is discount received. That is a revenue. If I receive €700 more discount, that's going to be 3600 plus 700. My two sides won't equal now. So what will I do to my item? If I add 700 on the credit side, I'll have to add it to 700 to the item on the debit side. So how will this look in the accounts? We will have salaries and general expenses, 192,500 plus 500 plus 700. The discount received, we'll have our 3600 plus our 700. And in the mortgage interest due, we will have the amount for the year minus 2,500 instead of the 3,000 that we had here in the trial balance. Okay, 2005 question. This one was quite nice because we only had one mistake here. So adjustment number 3. So the suspense figure arises as a result of discount allowed 1,000 entered only in the debtor's account. So what other account should that go into? It should go into the discount account. So I have a discount here, 4,000, and it's discount received. Okay, so if I allowed a discount, that would reduce my discount received amount. So I'll have to minus 1,000 there, because discount allowed would go on the debit side here, which reduces your credit balance there. If I minus 1,000 from the credit side, my two sides won't equal, so I'll have to go to my item incorporate suspense. If I minus 1,000 on the credit side, I'll have to minus 1,000 on the debit side. So that is it. And to put it into the accounts then, we have discount received 4,000 minus 1,000, and we have admin expenses 23,900 minus 1,000. So that's the 2005 one done. That's an entire adjustment done really quickly. In 2004, there was no suspense adjustments. 2003, it was adjustment number 4. So the suspense figure arises as a result of the posting of an incorrect figure from mortgage interest to the mortgage interest account and discount received 700 entered only in the creditor's account. The correct interest was entered in the bank account. Okay, so suspense figure arises result of the posting incorrect figure for mortgage interest to the mortgage interest account. Okay, so this mortgage interest here, 4,000, that is incorrect. So for 3 months. So let's see what it should have been. Well, our mortgage, 5% mortgage, including an increase of 200,000, 5% mortgage received on the 1st of the 4th, it's 500,000. So before the 1st of the 4th, for the first 3 months, it would be 5,000 minus 200,000. So that's 300,000 by 5% by 3 over 12, that's 3,750. So 4,000 minus 250 would be my 3,750. So now I've got 3,750 there. But my two sides will not equal because I'm after minus than 250 from the debit side. So what will I do? I'll find my item incorporating suspense, which is also on the debit side. So I've already minus 250 from the debit, so therefore I will plus 250 there to the debit. And now they equal. Then we have discount received 700 entered in the creditor's account. So where else should that go? Well, that should go into the discount account. So I've got discount here, 4600 on the credit side, so discount received, 4600. If I have to get 700 more discount received, I'll simply add 700 to that. Then my two sides will not equal if I have just added 700 to one side, to the credit side. So I go to my item on the debit side that incorporates my suspense, and I'll also add 700 to that. So I've added 700 to both sides, and now both my sides equal. So this is how this is going to look. You've got discount received 4600 plus 700. You've got mortgage interest paid. It's the amount for the year minus 3750 instead of the 4,000. And you have insurance 8700 plus 250 plus 700. Now then in 2002 there was no suspense adjustment. So you can see the whole way from 2021 back to 2002 there was only 2 years that didn't have any suspense adjustments. So that is actually like quite remarkable, you know. So you're definitely going to see a suspense adjustment in the summer, you know, because in the last, 17 years or so they have come up, 16, 17 years, they have come up, all right? So you need to be very well practiced at that. And the way that we have done it there is we have done it in a way that you won't have to spend loads of time doing workings in a workings page. You can use your trial balance to help you. You just do need to know what accounts that they should go into. So you do need to know, like discount allowed goes into discount and it goes into debtor, things like that. Credit purchases goes into the purchases account and it also goes into the creditor account. So your suspense in 60 marker or 100 marker questions really helps you out with this here, because you kind of learn what accounts you need to use, etc. in those questions. So that's suspense adjustments video complete then.